Hello, good afternoon, and welcome everybody from you in today's webinar session, AI Readiness in Tax, how to evaluate and elevate your strategy. My name is Sabine Leitner, and I will facilitate today's webinar. In order to be as interactive as possible, please feel free to ask questions during the webinar. Direct them directly in the Q&R tool on the bottom right of the screen, and we will address them, of course, at the end of this webinar if the time allows. And now I am very happy to welcome our presenter of today, which is Chris Zangrilli. In his normal life, VP Technology Strategy, in reality, one of our AI gurus at Vertex, and I'm really happy to have him here in this presentation. But before I'm handing over to Chris, I would be happy to know a little bit more about you and about your impressions with regards to AI. And I'm asking you to join this poll. How would you rate your organization's current readiness to adopt AI in tax operations? We are giving you 4 different answers. Please select the one that's most appropriate for yourself, and I will give you a couple of seconds before then we are directly able to see the results. Please make your choice now. Five seconds left. Okay, and I will switch over to the results now here. 19 or nearly 20% have a clear strategy and governance framework already in place. 15% have started exploring, but definitely lack formal governance. 85%, and with that the majority, haven't taken any concrete steps yet. And about 1/4 of the people are not yet sure. They're trying to learn more during the session. And this is exactly the perfect timing to hand over to you, Chris. Over to you. Tell us more about AI.
Thanks, Sabine. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time today to talk about what I find a pretty exciting topic, AI. There's a lot of talk today around AI, a lot of hype. So can we boil that down a little bit and get into some more specifics around how do we get ready for this transformation that's starting to happen? So why does AI matter right now? Although some might say, well, it matters because it hits the news all the time, there's more to it than that. It really is an inflection point that's allowing enterprise software to transform. It is allowing for processes to be improved and reimagined, and it is an opportunity to really advance and scale how people do work. You see examples of this with generative AI, the ability for you to have a conversation with your data, with an application. You don't necessarily have to learn that application or data. You can have a conversation and ask natural language questions and get responses. You can create content. These tools now generate content on your behalf, given context that you provide, which can help not only accelerate your work, but help identify anomalies and issues. You're starting to hear more and more around agentic AI, which is really the ability for AI to take actions on your behalf, either in an autonomous or semi-autonomous way, which really allows for additional work to be done and more information to be brought forward to you to help you make decisions. All of this surfaces around data. AI really is a tool to mine a lot of data. And the tax departments today already deal with a ton of data that they're responsible for going through, understanding at a level of depth that allows them to complete all their processes. AI can help with that because AI is actually really good at analyzing the data, identifying patterns and anomalies, and surfacing that. So the goal of AI, what we're going to be talking about today, is how do we get ready to scale the individual as a professional? So AI is a tool that can really enable you to do more. It's a tool that can help you not only on the understanding and knowledge side, but completing tasks and even taking to a step of perhaps reinventing some of your processes, either to be more efficient or in some cases to be autonomous using agents. So digging into it now is a perfect time as opposed to waiting for all of this to happen and then responding to it later. So let's start off with a couple of myths versus reality related to AI. So one of the myths that you may hear is AI is always accurate. AI keeps advancing. The pace at which it is advancing, when you type a question into something like ChatGPT, it really sounds like a good answer. In reality, there's still a level of validation that's necessary. AI does a great job of recommending things, of identifying what's probably the right answer, but it's not always right. So having a person understand that and provide their intelligence in that to make sure that this is correct is an important thing, especially in a regulated industry like tax. Next myth, AI is plug and play. As a technology, some folks think that, hey, I just turn on and it magically does everything. It can do things that I couldn't do before. In reality, there's more work that goes into making AI a success. It really needs a data repository that's clean and accurate. You need to have human intelligence added into this, and you need to have governance in place to make sure that things are being done in a proper way, that you have a control framework to make sure that decisions are made properly. AI can be very successful, but it takes more than just turning it on. The last myth here is some folks may feel like you're on your own to figure this out. The space is moving so fast. How can anyone actually figure this out and keep up with it? And the reality is lots of folks are on this journey already. Most of the vendors, partners that you have, even kind of the technology ecosystems like the ERPs are all on this journey. And you can leverage those folks to help you in your own journey. You can help with understanding where they're at, and they in turn can help you understand where you need to go in your journey. Leveraging them actually will pay off a lot of dividends so you don't have to figure this out on your own. So are there any best practices related to AI readiness? What we're going to walk through here is kind of a three-phase approach that will help you get ready for AI. And this is pretty similar to other types of technologies that you've gone through in the past. So phase one of this approach is assessing the readiness. So understanding your current state of your data, your processes, your infrastructure, your skill sets, like what are all kind of the ingredient components that you have available that AI could be working with, and understanding what they are in detail so that you can identify if there are gaps or if there are areas that you can leverage. Phase two is pilot and learn. So start small. There are lots of opportunities to start both at the individual level, grow that to the team level, grow that to the department level, and even company-wide initiatives. But starting with small, bite-sized projects allows you to measure the outcomes. Are you getting the return on what you want? allows you to understand and learn, do you have any gaps on the data side, on the talent side, or maybe even on the process side? And as part of this process, you have the opportunity when you start small to form the right teams. And those teams should be a cross-functional team. It's subject matter experts in the particular domain. It's technology folks. It's perhaps even partners and vendors that can be brought in together to help understand and go through kind of a group learning exercise here. How do we make sure that this is fitting the organization's needs? And then the last phase here is really around scaling and governing the AI projects. So this is kind of building upon what you already have in your organization, but developing a bit of an AI operating model in which you are continually putting projects in place, putting together the governance around those projects, training your folks, upskilling as necessary, and then really measuring the outcomes. How do you understand what's happening with your processes, with your outcomes, so that you can make them better and either tweak the solutions or identify that you need some additional intelligence brought to bear, whether that's from the vendors or whether it's from your own folks. And then as part of this, there's the opportunity to really embrace AI almost as part of your culture. AI can help in a lot of different ways. You may be hearing recommendations from your CIO or CTO that you should be looking at using AI in all of your work. And there are a lot of opportunities for that. So as you start understanding what's possible with AI, as you start using it and learning about it, you have the ability to share that. You can share the common use cases with other folks and get more productivity out of that. And that could be something as simple as on the individual level, you're using AI to help with personal productivity, such as emails, such as creating documents, or it could be very process and business related. How is it helping you transform data to support a particular process? How is it providing insights into the data that you have so you can make decisions of whether something is on track or not, or whether it's identifying anomalies that you need to then go in and research. Some of this stuff is pretty familiar for the tax department. We get a lot of data, we process it, and we find issues. But a lot of that is done manually. I mean, there is some level of automation, but AI can really take that to the next level to really help not only scale where can AI play, but scale the tax department to be able to handle all of the data that's coming in, all of the changes in regulations, and all of the timelines that need to be hit. So part of the readiness is how do I build upon kind of the core foundational or principles around making sure that AI is responsible. And this is important because at the end of the day, as an individual, you're accountable for the work to get done. AI can't be just a black box that you can point to and perhaps say, well, the AI came up with this result. It really is a joint experience in which you need to participate with that. So what are some of the principles to make sure that you understand that AI is being used responsibly and it's transparent? And the first part here is aligning AI with the right use cases. AI is a great tool. It can be used for a lot of things, but not everything. There are other technologies that come into play, and there are some things that really shouldn't be done by AI at this point in time. It is really good at pattern detection. It's really good at recommendations. It's really good at creating first drafts of things, but there are refinements that need to be done by you. There is levels of automation or speed that need to be done by other technologies. So making sure that you apply AI to the right use cases. It's not a hammer that you want to use for everything. The second part here is AI is really empowering users, and you need to have a control framework to support that. And that a lot of times is referred to as human in the loop. So how do I get the results of the AI and have a review process in place in which the human expertise can come to bear, that this can be validated before it gets put into use? The second part is sometimes you want to understand, well, how did AI arrive at its conclusions? So providing transparency into that reasoning can become really important. Did it surface a way of thinking about it that you haven't? Or did it surface a way of thinking about it that is incorrect? And understanding that will help you not only make the right decisions, but help you even tune the AI to be more correct in the future. The next part that we can't not have as part of a principle is around security and privacy. The good news is, since AI relies on the data that you have in place, your existing data security and privacy controls already apply to AI. You may need to extend these a little bit, but leveraging what you already have in this area is an important part. It's both an accelerator, but it's also good guardrails to make sure that you have the proper governance in place. You need to understand whether using the data is allowed in AI, training AI is allowed or not with the data, and how do you make that separation between public information, private, confidential? All that needs to come into play to make sure that you're using it the right way, against the right data. And the last part here is around leveraging the human intelligence for accountability. I mentioned this before. At the end of the day, us as individuals are actually responsible for the decisions. We can't blame the AI for the result. So leveraging AI to help us make the decisions, can it give us the information that we need? Can it even recommend the decision? But at the end of the day, there's still a call that needs to be made by the individual, and providing our intelligence, our full context as to what the problem space is, and is this answer in alignment with where that could be, is a really important part of this. Combine these 4 steps really set you up for success from a standpoint of making sure that AI is used properly in your company. And if you marry this with the phases that we listed before, you kind of have a little bit of a blueprint of how to start working through projects. So part of what you've heard is AI really relies on the data. So data quality is a really important part for your AI readiness journey. And what do we mean by data quality? Well, data is not just the transactions or the information that has been provided to the system, but it's also the context around the process. The more you can provide context, the better the AI can understand what you're trying to achieve. And that context can help with translating terminology. That can help with understanding, does this fit within the process or not? That can help ground the AI towards the outcomes that you're interested in. And then having the proper clean and structured data. If you put bad data in, AI can't magically fix it. It needs good data in order to find the patterns, in order to help create the recommendations, or in order to help automate the process. So using the data as a strategic asset to not only complete the work, but to even get insights on top of that becomes a really big win if done properly. And just like in a lot of other compliance aspects in the tax department, there's a lot of effort applied to getting the data ready, getting the data clean, getting the data in a way that is trusted. And then there's a less of an effort on actually using that data to execute against it, to help model what the output should be. So this is a really important area in the AI readiness. Getting your data ready is the foundational step. And once that's in place, applying the tools on top of that are actually a lot easier, and it opens up a lot more opportunities from a tooling perspective. You can use AI to enrich and augment your data, but you can also use AI across the data sets to understand them more deeply, to interact with them in different ways. It really opens the door for a lot of possibilities. So the next area here in the AI journey is, how do we get additional help to help with some of these things? And your vendor partners are a great source of getting this help. They are already working on this in their solutions. Most of the vendors that you deal with probably already have AI embedded in their solution, either as co-pilots or assistants to help you understand kind of the knowledge and how to use the product, or perhaps even perform certain actions. There's AI enablement to help the products perform in different ways, to provide additional insights, or even to collaborate across different solutions. All of these enable new opportunities for you to understand how could this be used, and they can help you with that. They can help you understand what that roadmap of capabilities are, how that could change or transform some of your processes to make them more efficient, or to even enable them to help you scale out the work that you're doing. A lot of vendors also offer a level of training and expertise around AI that you can tap into, not only about their solution, but around the technology itself, so that you have a better understanding as to how it works and whether it fits your exact needs. And that training enablement sometimes is even broader than in which you can scale that out to the rest of your team. Vendors also can help on understanding the time to value and staying up with the current trends. And what I mean by that is the pace at which AI is moving is very fast. And leveraging vendors to help you stay abreast of what those new advancements are and taking advantage of them in a faster time frame than perhaps you could do yourself ends up being a great way to accelerate your AI journey. And the last part, you end up with some opportunities here to collaborate across your ecosystem. Each company has their own landscape of different technologies that need to come together to create an ecosystem in which you operate in. As the vendors are providing AI for their individual solutions, there's also the opportunity to connect that across multiple systems. So working with your vendor to understand how AI can fit in and connect to the broader ecosystem becomes an important part of the journey as well. So as we look at AI readiness, what do we mean by this? Can we create almost a checklist of what would it mean for you to be AI ready? So the first one here is talking about the data. Do you have a clean repository of data? So this would be your structured data. Is this transaction information? Is it configuration information? Is it documents, spreadsheets? What is that clean, curated data? And then what's the context around that? What processes does it apply to? What security ramifications are involved with that? What terminology is necessary to understand in order to use that data appropriately? Then how do you map out what are the use cases for AI? Some of the use cases for this will include leveraging AI to automate some of your processes. So from a tax perspective, can this help in product classification, classifying your products for the proper tax determination? Can this help in understanding the laws and changes in legislation that you need to interact with? So leveraging AI to actually keep up to speed and perhaps even do some additional research on the tax specifics to your business. Can this be used to also then help you on the compliance side? Can you identify anomalies with the data? Identify how the data connects to things, and then leveraging it almost as a low-code tool to help in formatting output, to help in creating presentations, data sets, reports, in formats that you can share with other parts of your company and make that easy to understand for those audiences. There's lots of ways that AI can be used, and vendors are creating more and more tools that are embedded into the processes that already exist to help automate at scale. So instead of just creating a report, how do I get the answer to my questions? How do I have a conversation with the data, just like I would have it with a colleague, so that I can get at the pertinent information in a timely manner? These are all possible with AI, and these are all different use cases that you may have on your journey. The next one is security and privacy controls. We already have those in place around the data. We just need to extend those to include AI. It's a natural extension, and there may not actually be much in the way of change, but you need to honor those security controls in place, particularly around what data is being used to train the AI versus what data AI is using to act upon. That delineation becomes really important to keep with your current control framework. The next one here talks a little bit about talent. So are your teams ready to work with AI? And part of this is getting familiar with how the solution works, perhaps with the vendor or what you've rolled out to the department. But part of this is at the individual level. So how do, as individuals, you get more up to speed on AI? There are lots of resources to do this, and it all depends on how deep you want to go. There are free courses out there and explanations that will get into how the AI actually works. What is an LLM? How does it work? What's the math behind it? You can get really deep. Or you can stay more at the higher level and look at how to apply it. There are lots of examples on how to apply it. I would recommend starting with one of the chatbots, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. Get out there and use them. They're free. You can create a sign-in. Your company most likely has one of these licensed already, and you can start using it to get familiar with, well, what is a conversational interface with an AI? It's not just a search. It's really a chain of thought in which I am asking a question, getting an answer, and then asking a deeper question to probe deeper. And going through that process, I can get additional insights, and you can get more out of the AI. You'll find that framing the questions becomes really important in order to work through that. And that's the same case as if you would create an automated process. You really need to frame it out in a way that it is really explicit. You need to make it explicit for the AI to understand what you're trying to achieve, and then it can get a really good result. And the same thing is going to happen from a training perspective. How do you get really specific around what you're trying to achieve, and then you can find the proper training courses. There are so much out there. The last part, which folks don't necessarily think about training, is kind of awareness of what's happening in the industry. There are lots of opportunities in the press, in different vendors providing information around this, but how do you keep up with the changes in this industry? AI is moving at a pace today that we haven't seen really from any other technology. The new things that are coming out, the new capabilities that are possible seem to be happening almost on a monthly basis. And keeping up with that can be a challenge, but at least some awareness of where things are heading. How good is it? What new areas can it be applied to becomes important, because when you do your assessment of, will AI help me make a decision in this area today? If the answer is no today, it may be yes in 6 months or a year, because AI is moving that fast. So keeping an eye out for how these changes are happening and how to leverage them for your business processes becomes important. And leveraging your vendors is a great way to make sure you're kept up to date on those things. The last one here around the vendor support also touches on make sure that your vendors are using responsible AI principles at the heart. You really should be able to understand the reasoning behind the AI, transparency into what the AI is doing, so that you have a comfort level that it is supporting your process the right way. And that becomes kind of the foundation. If you understand how the tool is being applied and what's going into making that tool accurate and reliable, then you'll be able to use the outcomes of that in a more productive way. So wrapping up here with kind of some high level recommendations. As we mentioned before, start with some low risk AI use cases. There is no reason to wait. Actively jumping in today and using AI to learn about AI is a great way to start. Make sure they're small so you can learn from it and then grow from there. That will help you assess your AI readiness, and it will help you get familiar with what's possible. The data is a key component to this. I've said a couple of times here, so continue to improve your data processes to make sure it's clean, structured, and that you have the context around how to best use it. Partnerships, both internal and external, are really going to help you accelerate this. Lots of folks are trying to dig into this and understand how to apply it, and leveraging those folks can really accelerate your ability to get ready for AI, but also use it. Governance and oversight is actually an enabler with AI. Having these in place allows you to create the trust that you need in order to trust the output for AI. And the more you have the proper processes in place around governance, the more confident you're going to be on the results that come out of the AI. And the last part is make sure you take care of the talent. There are lots of opportunities here to train and upskill the talent to really embrace kind of an AI culture of leveraging AI across all types of processes. So with that, that was kind of the high level walkthrough of how to get ready for AI. And that AI readiness journey should start today. Start today by enabling your folks to get familiar with what's possible out there, and suggest starting with small use cases and then growing to scale them out. With that, I think we can move into some of the Q&A.
Yeah, wonderful. And many thanks, Chris, for this fantastic presentation. Indeed, a couple of questions have been raised, and please use the opportunity to continue asking your questions. Chris will answer hopefully all of them in a really elaborate way. The first two questions I would like to combine, and I would like to add that these two questions has been asked during the slide with the best practices. And there were two questions. The first one was, I hope there will be some specific examples later on in this webinar around best practices, followed by a second question, who is aligned with the questionnaire of the first one. And he additionally said specific examples would provide actual value. Over to you, Chris.
Sure. Happy to provide an example here. So one example that we've done at our company, we've done with some of our customers is taking a time-consuming process and evaluating it through this process. So one of those things is, can we help classify our products from a tax perspective? So is this product taxable or non-taxable? Just at its simplest example. Assessing, do we have the data that supports that? Do we have an understanding of what the products are? Do we have an understanding of what tools are available to help with that determination? That then leads into working with your internal teams, your different stakeholders to say, hey, this is the process in which a classification is done. This is how I do it manually. Here are some of the tools that exist from an AI perspective to support that, and what are the data needs. And then moving into phase two, creating a pilot. How do we create a pilot to support that? Well, we combine the AI technologies or leverage the vendor technologies to support that process. And as part of that, I'm bringing my data into the solution. I'm processing it through the classification engine to see what the results are. If I agree with the results, I'm gaining confidence that this is helping me. If I disagree, I'm looking at this as, well, this is recommending perhaps the right direction of where to go, but it's not as accurate as what I want it to be. So how do I improve that? Is that additional data that needs to be provided from a customer perspective? Is that working with the vendor to tune what the outputs are? Is that tuning the process from a review process? Once I get that small pilot working of, hey, this seems to be working well, now I want to scale this out for all of my divisions in my company, for all of my products in my company, so that this can happen on an ongoing basis, that I can classify the products for the proper tax disposition on an ongoing basis. So that would be kind of an example in the tax domain. The same thing can happen on an individual basis. I can take something like supporting my end users with tax questions. So if I get questions in from the rest of my company that say, why was this taxed this way? How is this taxed this way? What does this mean from a legislation perspective? I can use personal productivity tools from an AI perspective, Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT, and I can create a bullet list of what I think the answer is. I can put it into these tools and ask it to create a response tailored to the audience that you're talking to. So if this is someone who is not familiar with tax, if this is a technical person, if this is an executive, you can identify what that audience is. And the AI will help craft a draft recommendation of what the email or report would be that explains this. And it does a really good job of tailoring your bullet points in the context of the audience to really accelerate your ability to bring that forward. Once that exists, you review it and see if it's accurate, modify it as needed, and then get feedback whether it hit the mark or not. That's an example of kind of a small pilot of using that. Once that's in place and you learn from that, you've learned how to interact with AI, you've learned a use case for that, you can scale that out to other areas of your business, whether it be additional support areas or whether it be how to leverage AI to help in the understanding of other data sources. Does that make sense?
For me, yes. I hope for the two people who asked these questions too. I still have a couple of more questions. The next one is, in your view, how long will it realistically take for AI tools in tax to reach a level of accuracy and reliability where expert human review is no longer necessary or at least significantly reduced?
That's a great question. And I think it, just like in other things in tax, it depends. There are certain parts of the processes in which I think it can get accurate more quickly than others. The challenge is for tax to be done properly, there's a ton of context that needs to be brought to bear. Understanding the business, understanding the supply chain, understanding the regulations, there's a lot that needs to come into play to understand that. And although we can help train AI to learn more and more of that, at the moment, the human still can connect those dots better than the machine. So part of it is if you break down the problem space into smaller pieces that AI can handle, you can assemble multiple things together to get at results. And I think that's going to happen more quickly. Can I use AI to analyze a piece of legislation and create a summary for me? Yes, I can do that today. Can I analyze a business report and see what that means from tax? Yes. Can I combine those two and have AI make a recommendation of what the impact is? I can, but that may not be enough context. So that's something that the tax professionals are going to have to come in and say, yeah, the recommendation makes sense, or hey, there's all this other context that actually means we need to make decisions slightly differently. So from a timing perspective, AI is moving very fast. So is it possible in the next few years that parts of the processes can be more automated from an accuracy perspective? It definitely is. But I do think, at least over the next couple of years, there's still going to be the need for human review to at least make sure that it has all the context necessary to give you the right answer. Great question, though.
Perfect. And a great answer. Many thanks for that. More and more questions are popping in, so I really, really love that. The next question is, please, can you elaborate on what you mean by getting your data ready?
Sure. So when we look at data across the tax process or even in general, there's a couple different types of data that come to play. You have structured data. So think of this as your transactions that flow through the system, perhaps from the ERP, perhaps from other systems. Very detailed information, very structured from the standpoint of, exactly what the fields are, and it is kind of a reoccurring thing that happens. That information generally is pretty clean, meaning it's been generated by the systems, so it's a good source to leverage. But if we take that a step further and say, okay, what other data is pulled into that? Well, there's context information. So perhaps supply chain information. Do you have ingredient lists for the products that are described in your transactions? If you don't have a connection to what the ingredients are, is that context going to be necessary in order for you to process it from an AI perspective? You as an individual may know this particular product is made out of plastic, metal, organic material, but the AI is not going to know that without you training it, or without you providing additional context. So do you have enough context around the structured data for it to understand it? The second part is unstructured data, and these are things like reports. So are there business reports that provide context around your strategy of what you're trying to achieve, or perhaps around how something works, understanding the process better, so process documentation. These tend to form, PDFs or other types of documents, presentations to help explain that. That unstructured data can also be brought to bear to help AI make decisions and provide recommendations, but you may need to curate that. So it's really easy to have different versions of those documents available. So I may have a newer one and an older one. Well, I need to go through and curate and remove the older ones, because if I send both into the AI, you may get either answer, the old answer or the new answer. But if you curate that stuff out and have just the latest version of the unstructured data, then the AI will have that as its context. So those are kind of the two areas. How do I make sure that my structured data has enough information to really understand what it means? And then how do I curate my unstructured data so I don't have duplicate or outdated information? Great question.
Thank you. Then the next question is a quite long one, so please be prepared for that.
Okay.
Not all clients would be happy to share their data with openly available LLMs, as for example, there was a conversion leak with ChatGPT. There are a lot of privacy issues. LLMs are trained on data as well. Also, agentic AI needs to be harnessed by the relevant software. LLMs are not fluent in tax or accountancy. They hallucinate. It would require a custom-built model or a model training, which is a development itself. Would be your comments on that one?
So you're right. You lift up a couple of areas that folks do need to consider. So there are publicly available LLMs. There are ways to harness that, though, in a private environment. And putting it in a private environment, whether it's hosted in the cloud, just like with cloud computing, you have your infrastructure hosted kind of in a private environment for you, even though it's technically on public infrastructure. The same thing exists with these LLMs. And they are making advancements such that you can take kind of the big LLMs and make them smaller to run on local devices. So that's still a process that's happening. It works for some workloads, not for all. But making a private version of that, and most of the vendors that you deal with are leveraging private versions. They are not using just the public version of ChatGPT or Gemini. That helps in one level of security. The other one is the training aspects. Most vendors need your permission. I mean, they're supposed to ask your permission as to whether they can use your data to train the model. And if you say no, they're not allowed to use it. Many vendors actually use synthetic data. And what that is data that is generated to help train the model on the context. It's not actually user data. They go through and create a simulated data set, and that simulated data set is used to train the model. As far as the tax terminology and how familiar is it with tax in order to actually leverage it, the current LLMs today have been trained on what's publicly available on the internet. And there is quite actually a bit of tax information available. Jurisdictions publish their tax information. So there are sources out there that the current LLMs have been trained on. Now, are they going to know the deep specifics that you have? The answer is no. And you can provide that additional context just in time with the model. You don't actually have to train it. There are technologies around today that provide that context just in time to support the model understanding of this. One of the terminologies that you may hear is RAG. The RAG architecture takes a corpus of information, chunks it up in a way that can be searched through and provided to the AI as context. That context is then combined with the inputs that you're providing and allows the AI to understand more to answer that. So it's actually a popular technique to perhaps have a glossary of technology terms or tax terms that you put in as context in addition to the questions that you're asking so that it gets to proper output. But yeah, this is an ongoing thing. Like, you need to make some decisions. How specific is the domain that you're looking at? Do you need to get into fine-tuning or training a model more on a particular domain? I will say vendors are taking a look at this as well. The LMs do a great job kind of as a broad base, but when you want to get into that domain specific, they are leveraging techniques, whether it's on the training side or RAG architecture, to help augment that.
Perfect.
Great question.
Many thanks. The next question somehow relates to this one. Similar to the previous question, the first main problem is being able to trust LLMs with client data, question mark. How can we trust that the data will be kept safe and confidential?
That is a great question. There is an entire trust journey related to AI, which you're calling out very appropriately. This trust journey is actually very similar to the trust journey that many of us have gone through when we embraced cloud computing. That same understanding of trust but verify. Okay, I'm moving my workloads into the cloud. Do I really know it's isolated enough? Do I really know it's secure enough? How do I understand that? The same thing is happening from an AI perspective. So the first part of that is providing transparency and audit logs as to what the AI is doing, which will allow you to actually take a look and make sure you're comfortable with that. The next thing is customers are creating, in essence, a trust profile around their AI. Sometimes this is referred to as a model card, which kind of describes what is the AI model behind the scenes. What is it? What is it doing? What is it made of? To give you that comfort of, hey, this is what's going into this. This is how it's being used. There are emerging standards from ISO, from SOC, that are looking at making sure that you have control frameworks in place and that you can be audited against those to make sure that you're fulfilling kind of the responsible AI requirements and that you're using it properly. And then the last part is there is a level of testing that you as an individual can do. You can test where some of this is to understand, is this incorporating your information the way that you're anticipating? Most of the AI vendors allow you to explore how is this being used and what are the ramifications of using it. All that is available for you to understand. Some of the models even allow you to interrogate them and ask them, and they will actually answer because they are making decisions. So if you ask it, how are you using this data, they'll come actually back with a response. But yeah, great question. This is a journey, and more tools are getting created to provide that transparency and confidence that folks are treating your data properly, and that the AI is, to the best of their ability, in a good spot for you to use on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, how would you recommend approaching the whole topic of AI when trying to transfer analog processes to a more digitized and partially automated environment? Maybe you can give an example from your past experiences.
Sure. So I will say one of the best ways to leverage AI to move from an analog process to a digital one is to use AI to help you in that process. So you can actually describe the process to AI and ask it for suggestions. And it actually can do a pretty good job. Now, you may or may not agree with all those suggestions, so that's why I say they're suggestions, but they definitely, AI can be used kind of in that process to help define where to go, and then take that to the next step of creating a pilot to prototype kind of the digital process and see where that happens. So one of the examples that I can give is kind of really processing information for what was traditionally done as a manual correlation. So if I'm trying to understand in a transaction data set whether configuration that I have used is being applied or not, today that's running a report on my transaction data set, a sampling report, running a report on my configuration, and then correlating that stuff myself. That manual process can be automated with AI. So breaking that down into the constituent parts, you may or may not be able to use AI to generate the reports. Once the reports exist, you can use AI to create the correlation, to analyze the data patterns, and to provide results back in a particular format that you're interested in. So the key to this is really understanding what is the intent that you're trying to achieve, or the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And you're really framing the digital process around that outcome, not around the tasks that you do today. So today the tasks may be, I generate these couple of reports and then I do a review. The outcome is I have an understanding as to whether I have used the configuration properly, and that is done through a correlation. So understanding that outcome intent is really what you build your digital process around, and AI can then help you with that. Great question, though.
Wonderful. We have many questions left, but I'm a little bit conscious of time. So my recommendation is all the remaining questions, we will answer them later on, specifically to you via email. But I would like to give one last question a chance. What AI-related technologies can Vertex provide today to support businesses? And what specific functions can AI support businesses on from a tax perspective?
Sure, great question. So Vertex is on this journey just like many of you are. We have a couple of AI-enabled capabilities in our products today. One is a co-pilot, which is a virtual assistant that allows you to have a conversation with the software to understand how to achieve tasks. So how do I get access to product knowledge? How do I, in essence, help me understand how to use the system to accomplish tasks and configuration? That exists today. Folks are using it already. The second one is a smart categorization. So this is categorizing products to tax categories, and the tax categories kind of have the corresponding taxable, exempt, different dispositions related to that. So that's the second part. Folks are loading in their catalog of products, and the system is going through and recommending what is the mapping to the product classification. And then there's a human in the loop review process that allows you to see what the suggestions are, and you can approve them or modify them. So this is the two that exist today. We are looking at other areas to expand upon this. One of the areas is in the user experience arena. So how do we make some of the complex configuration that we have in our system easier to use? If you're familiar with some of the Vertex products, on the calculation side, there's some really advanced configuration options. The ability to create tax rules, the ability to create tax assist rules, the ability to really create a lot of different types of configurations in the system. That flexibility is great, but sometimes can be a little confusing as to how to operate that. So we're looking at bringing AI in to help make that easier to use so that you can be more productive. We're also looking at how can this help surface additional insights to help you make decisions. So can we take reporting beyond just running a report, but actually answering questions that you have, providing the ability for AI to work with some of this reporting data to help you answer your questions. So that's the other area. And then the The last area that we're looking at is how do we extend AI into our partner ecosystems? Vertex right now partners very closely with the major ERPs out there, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, lots of others, plenty of e-commerce vendors. How do we interact with their AI ecosystems so that we can bring a blended experience and really harness kind of the value across our product and the ecosystem? We have some really robust connectors today, kind of on the calculation side and the reporting side. We want to extend those into the AI space. So those are kind of some of the areas that we're heading. But just like you kind of were on the journey of releasing things incrementally to provide value. There was a second part of the question. Can you remind me what it was?
The second part of the question was, what specific functions can AI support businesses on from a tax perspective?
Okay. A lot of what AI can support today is configuration support, analysis of kind of the outputs to help make decisions or help understand things better. AI is used for anomaly detection. Are validations in place properly? Can I understand this? And then AI is being used, interestingly enough, both on the front end and the back end to help with formatting. Some folks are using it as kind of a low-code way to make sure the data is formatted in the right ways. The last part is AI is starting to get infused in a lot of products. Personal productivity products such as Microsoft Office has a lot of AI infused in it. Lots of the ERPs have that. And what this is doing is it is creating a level of automation and an ease of use to make you more productive, really to help you scale out the amount of work that you can do in any given period of time. Great question, though.
Perfect. Many thanks to Chris. Many thanks to everybody from you joining this webinar. It seems as if we really hit the spot because there were so many questions. Sorry for not being able to answer all of them. Then we would need another half an hour. So you will get your answer via email, but you also will receive an email from us with the replay of this webinar in case you want to listen to it again or in case you want to listen to the answers of these questions. So this concludes today's webinar. And on behalf of the presenter, as well as from Vertex, I would like to thank all of you for your time and participation today. Many thanks to all of you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.